Kids! We all loved being a kid once. Free meals from restaurants, the glorious ability to have infinite stamina, and last but definitely not least, you can spill the filthy secrets of your cheating mother and be blessed with double the holidays. 2 birthdays, 2 Christmases. You couldn't think life could get any better than that. Except when you learned about this glorious TV show known as Kids Next Door. Kids Next Door is a legacy series that I know I will be forcing onto my future children if I'm ever blessed to have them. Because if you think I'm going to condone some cocomelon parentry in my household, first of all, do not insult me, and I would rather face crazy Steve during a raging thunderstorm than subject my kids to that AI brain cancer. The kids in this universe have created many great and crazy inventions based off of their own completely original technological system known as 2x4 technology. However, one of their greatest innovations they have ever utilized, they have never had to make with their own bare hands. This innovation was created by their very own biology. What I am talking about is those glorious snot rockets they blast out of their nose on a regular basis. A technology, yes, I said technology, that has been so ingrained in their system that all that time of them just digging for gold in their noses, they could have been getting pounds of gold with this incredible source if they were actually able to monetize it in some format. So today I wanted to talk about this very useful technology and how great it would be to actually be utilized in a real life scenario, and how much it would really be for them to actually execute something as similar and as complex as a D&I recognition system. And when you hear me talk about money and all these different innovations in the fictional world, you know what this series is. Today we're going to break down the fictional economics of boogers in Kids Next Door. What's up, you beautiful monkeys? It's your boy Kadukun, and welcome back to Fictional Economics, the series that's single-handedly keeping the rainbow monkey and the rainbow monkey munchie scalping scene prime and fresh for picking. What, you thought I was going to keep doing these videos for free? I'm an unemployed college graduate student. Morals, unfortunately, are on a low supply nowadays, and it looks like those Pokemon scalpers have to be somewhat right in some degree. So you better check out my eBay store in the link below to buy my rainbow monkeys. Please, before I take your ankles. All jokes aside, I have really been thinking about doing a financial economics video about the K&D universe for some time now, and after some diving into some information and the lore of the universe, I think this idea is a fun one to explore. Now, if you're sitting here thinking, Kadukun, you're really just gonna dedicate an entire video talking about bodily functions and boogers? Yes. You're going to understand my breakdowns on why the K&D's casual use of nose nuggets represents one of the most revolutionary uses of identification technology, and how it would be an economic nightmare to even make it become a reality from their standpoint. This right here is a booger. And this booger is considered more than just biological waste. It is a super technology in the K&D universe. They act as like biometric keys. Kids use these boogers to unlock doors, activate weapons, start their machines, and authenticate their identity in the K&D universe, using it as a base for their DNA identification security. So before we dive into the calculations and the economics of K&D's booger technology, we need to understand what we are working with here. What is a booger, scientifically speaking? A booger is dried nasal mucus, a combination of water, protein, salts, and most importantly for our purposes, cells. More specifically, epithelial cells contain your complete DNA sequence. That means there is a kindergarten desk with all of your DNA lingering there when you try to sleep throughout your whole class period. Now let's just hope by the grace of God no one decides to pick up that DNA and decides to clone you. Who's gonna do that? You're broke anyways. It's okay. I am too. Anyways, the average human, kid or adult, produces about 1 to 1.5 liters of mucus per day. Now, not all that belongs or becomes boogers, but let's be conservative and say each kid produces about 10 harvestable boogers per day. Now, without all of that information, let's see if we can understand if there is a plausible case that DNA can be used in this way. And I said plausible because yes, technically the technology already exists. Rapid DNA identification systems can currently analyze DNA samples in about 90 minutes by on the lower end. Companies like Andy and Rapid Hit have made these commercially available. The technology works by deleting short tandem repeats or STRs in DNA, which are unique to each individual. Now, given that this technology is real and the plausibility of this actually being able to exist in real life, the problem with the K&D's version that it's more on the instantaneous side of things. So that means it wouldn't be average DNA sequencing, we could probably mark it as along the lines of quantum DNA sequencing. While we don't have that yet, the trajectory of DNA tech suggests that would be feasible with near instant DNA authentication in about 2 to 3 decades. But let's talk about how this actually works in the K&D universe, because the show actually gives us some more surprising specific lore about this technology. In the show, when kids join the K&D, they literally put a booger into something called code module. That stands for carrying operatives data entering manually on digitally uncrackable little electronics. Yes, that is the actual acronym. I have always loved the K&D acronyms, but my god, they're a mouthful. This device contains the genetic material of every single Kids Next Door operative in history. Your booger gets analyzed, your DNA gets uploaded to their super big computer mabob, yes, that's what their computer is actually called, and huzzah, you're in the system. Now here's how things start to get interesting from an economic standpoint. In Operation Graduate, Father steals the code module and uses the DNA data to create a machine that turns Candy operatives into animals. Tommy, number 2's little brother, saves the day by physically removing his booger from the module to decommission himself, making him immune to the ray. Think about the security implications. Your biometric key, your booger in this case, isn't just stored data, it's stored as physical genetic material. That means the code module is essentially a DNA bank containing samples from thousands and thousands of kids varying from different ages. From a real world perspective, this would be an insane liability. You're storing the complete genetic profiles of minors in a single device that can apparently be stolen by one dude with fire powers with massive anger issues. The show also established that number 2, the founder of the current K&D, created something called the Recommission module, powered by his own booger. This device can restore memories to decommissioned operatives. One booger powered a memory restoration device for years. And I'm not even going to talk about the energy output of that nonsense because that literally is quite literally beyond impossible. But let's actually get to the fun part, the actual calculations of everything. So what if we decide to take this into 2 scenarios? What if we take this into a school and or a treehouse like the show? Picture it like this. A group of determined 6th graders fed up with the administration canceling Pizza Friday for budgetary restrictions, while somehow finding money for a brand new football scoreboard for a football team that hasn't scored in 1955. So the 6th graders decide to take matters into their own hands. They're going to lock down the entire school with booger-based biometric security. Based on that standard, only the kids can get in. They break in and they bring down the rules of deciding to say there are no longer adults, teachers, no vice principals. Not a single unk is allowed to walk into this facility under the rule of the new students and decided to say, we are now ruling this new school. Or if we're going by the treehouse scenario, they just making a cool treehouse and they have like special doors for it. We are now at the question, could they actually afford to do this? Let's break it down by school size because the economics change drastically depending whether you're talking about a small middle school, a small elementary school, or even a massive high school. Let's start with about a mid-sized middle school. We're talking about a school with about 600 students on average from grades 6 to 8, 25 regular classrooms, 5 specialized rooms, 1 gym and 2 entry points, 1 cafeteria with 2 doors, administrative offices with multiple doors, main entrance and side entrances about around 3 doors, and 6 emergency exits. That's like about the average amount of doors that exist in a mid-sized middle school. That is a total of about 42 total doors that need to be secured. Now let's talk about what we need to actually secure each door with instant DNA authentication. For the first main investment, the first main component, the current rapid DNA tech costs about $4,000, but we need instant result, not 90-minute results. So we're talking about at theoretical next-gen technology, that's about approximately 10 times more the cost. So this bad boy can analyze a booger and match it to his database in under 3 seconds. So with that being, that's about $40,000 from that main component for a quantum DNA sequencer. The next component we need is a scanner. They can safely collect the booger, transfer it to the sequencer, and then sterilize itself for the next person. Think of it like a reverse ATM, but for mucus. And that would be around $3,000. Now, once the DNA checks out, the door needs to actually open. We are talking about possibly electromagnetic doors that can withstand someone taking a kick to the door down, because let's be real, angry teachers will try and attempt to break down the doors to get back into the school with any means necessary. So those relatively electromagnetic locks are about $2,000 each. Next is a dedicated computer to process and run the DNA matching algorithms, maintain an encrypted database for authorized users, log all entry attempts, and communications with central security systems. Plus, you'll need custom software because Booger Lock Pro 3000 isn't exactly going to be on the market as of yet, so you kinda have to make it on the fly. Another thing they would need is a redundant power source. You can't have the adults just cutting power to the building, that kinda ruins the whole purpose of having this entire system in the first place. Each door needs to have at least a battery backup that can run for at least about 72 hours. That's long enough to at least negotiate for the pizza parties to come back for the school. And then last but not least, installation and integration. That alone is about $2,000 because realistically, unless you have another number 2 level engineering genius in your friend group, you're hiring professionals to install all of this equipment. That includes wiring, mounting, calibration, and making sure the whole system doesn't just blow up in your face. All they will really need to do is just pull a Phineas and Ferb and tell them, hey, we may be young enough to do this, but we're going to do it anyway. We're just going to pay you and you're just going to accept it. You'll be good, and just look the other way. Just smile and wave, my guy. With all of those put together and thinking these kids have the capacity to actually get these components, each door would cost them about $53,500. Now we multiply that by 42 doors, we will get $2.2 million just to make this even conceivably possible in a mid-sized middle school. I'm sorry, but I think the annual bake sale is not going to be enough to actually knock the legs off this massive amount of a charge. It gets even worse if you try to expand this to an average high school, which would increase the amount for the total cost for each door to a 35% increase, going from $2.25 million to $6.31 million, because there is a massive increase from the average being 42 doors to 118 doors. But despite all of these massive numbers and creations, we all know realistically, like let's be real, the kids next door are not going to be getting this money. They're not going to be doing it. They didn't get where they were by buying pre-made technology. They built everything themselves with 2x4 technology, literally making advanced weapons and vehicles out out of household items and wood and nails and everything around them. So what if our rebellious students took that approach? What's the absolute cheapest way for them to pull this off? Well, back to the rapid DNA scanner, instead of the $40,000 quantum sequencers, you would need to buy refurbished rapid DNA testing kits on the secondary market. Yeah, it's a massive bummer that your processing time jumped from 3 seconds to 90 minutes, but here's the thing. You only need fast authentication during the invasion period of getting into the school. When everyone is left and all the kids decide to break into the school, that's the only real reason why you need it. Once the school is secured and all of the kids you want inside are inside, who cares if it takes 90 minutes to verify one person? You would run this as a pre-authentication system. Kids register their boogers ahead of time and the system just confirms identity using a simpler but yet faster method. When it comes to the scanner section, the kids can use a Raspberry Pi that costs about $80. Add a USB microscope, a custom 3D printed sample holder, and use an open source image recognition software, which is free, and you've got yourself a pretty janky and ghetto looking thing, but a functional booger scanner. Will it be as secure as using the $3,000 professional model that we talked about before? No. Will it work? Maybe. We're in budget mode here, folks. We can't be picky. Now, another expensive component would still be the locks, which would be smart door locks. Forget the military grade electromagnetic locks. You can get commercial smart locks for about $300 that connect to your computer system. Yeah, a determined adult could probably kick it in, but that's why you reinforce the doors. Which brings us to another component, 2x4 wood barricades. We all know good and well that the K&D is very resourceful. They would literally just barricade the doors with wooden planks or with whatever else they can find throughout the building and MacGyver something that would be enough to reinforce the door like it's an electromagnetic locked door. As for the computer, obviously they won't have their supercomputer. So instead they could use a refurbished laptop or buy a refurbished laptop inside of the school or buy one used and install Linux onto the platform. We can't use Windows because Windows is beyond immovable when it comes to a lot of their platforms and their programs, so you won't be able to manipulate it as easily. You would also need to use an open source database software, which is also free, it's not hard to find them, and code your own authentication system, which is also free, especially if you know a little bit of an amount of my favorite coding language, Python. And this is probably the most plausible moments of this section because there are literal teenagers right now who can do that before they even hit high school and are doing it in even hackathons. Obviously, when it comes to installation, obviously this will be free because you're kids. You do it yourself, channel your inner number 2 engineering genius, and find a way to make it work. You get your hands dirty and get to work. Now, as for the power source, obviously we're not running a quantum computer here anymore, so obviously the very simple power source that can be very useful is a simple car battery. That can power a Raspberry Pi and a smart lock door for multiple days. So that would be the ideal source of power they can use just to even maintain one of those doors. With all of that DIY situation taken into effect, all of these devices altogether would cost about $1650, a massive reduction if we're going through the high-end stuff. So then if we were to recalculate everything, like say for the middle school with 42 doors, that would equal out to $69,300, or if it were a high school with 118 doors, $194,700. But despite all of these calculations, if we were being realistic, the K&D doesn't have any money. They don't have a budget, they don't have any funding. So of course, realistically, if they were going with the DIY approach, they 100% would have stolen everything. So despite all of the actual objects that had some kind of cost to it, they would literally cost them $0 to actually execute any fraction of this, especially in real life. Because I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of teenagers around the world who have stolen high-priced objects for less effort. But that is pretending. From a theoretical standpoint, there are kids like that who are just as goated and just as capable as the K&D. But despite all of that, even if they got everything for free, got all of the objects all together into one school, got everything taken over, and are in active negotiation with the adults to get everything that they want, and this is in real life, theoretically, there is something still very weird about the very aspect, the very information, the very core of this entire technology. The boogers themselves realistically show that they can, at least to a degree, power the devices the K&D can use. Like a prime example, Number Zero's recommissioning module has been running for 60 plus years. The only reason why it got reactivated later on is because Number One's booger got put into the device, and that's when they started generating more power. So then the very question becomes, even though they're able to open doors and become very accessible to the location and make it a holistic bunker just for kids, how exactly are they powering it? This something is very weird to me, because this is something I can't exactly economically figure out from the source of a booger, because obviously even our bodies may generate some power, there is nothing in our body that can generate that much power in order to activate multiple devices. To put it into perspective, an MRI machine uses about 20 kilowatts of power during operation. Even if the recommissioning module only operates for about 10 minutes per use and has been used about 10 times over the last 60 years, we're looking about 20 kilowatts times 0.17 hours for 10 uses. That's like 34 kilowatts per hour. And one booger producing 0.000001 watts continuously for 60 years generates about 5.256 watts per hour, while the module itself would need quadruple, double, whatever the amount you want to say, the amount of power to actually activate the module. The only way Number Zero's boogers powers the recommissioning module if it was tapping into an energy source that doesn't exist in our understanding of physics. We're talking about possibilities of like 0-point energy extraction, quantum vacuum fluctuation, straight up baboon magic, or the writers just didn't think about the thermodynamics of the whole thing. From an economics perspective, if the K&D had discovered an energy source that could generate 6,500 times more power than thermodynamics allows, they wouldn't be fighting for kids' rights to stay up past bedtime in the first place. They would be doing anything else beyond that. They would be at least be attempting to solve the global energy crisis in the world. They would be selling this technology to governments and be making trillions of dollars, not even billions. But then granted, we are talking about the minds of the K&D. All of their major purpose is in the pursuit of the satisfaction of kids. So obviously, even if they had that at their disposal, they wouldn't be using that in that capacity whatsoever. But let's bring this home, you beautiful monkeys. After this analysis, cost breakdowns, and the thermodynamic violations, what's the final economic verdict on K&D booger technology? DNA authentication is very much possible and, to a degree, economically brilliant or well-versed, not nearly close to being as a nightmare as you may think. Using boogers as biometric keys is genuinely not exactly the greatest of ideas, but the plausibility is there. DNA authentication is coming, it's secure, and making it free by using biological waste is a smart resource management kind of way, because you can't manage the resource of the human body because it will continuously generate it. So realistically, if kids actually wanted to run that as a business, it would be very viable to them. Even the K&D cost, if there was like a mass production aspect and volunteering labor from the major aspects of it, it would be theoretically around 30k, 21,000, like around that range, because it wouldn't take that long for it to actually be produced all over, especially if we're going through the DIY route, because of course realistically the first option I said is not realistically in the K&D unless they stole every single technology at their disposal. So with that alone, if we're going by the DIY route, the K&D saves about $2.2 million per installment compared to the real world systems. If they wanted to secure 10,000 installations worldwide for tree houses, bases, vehicles, cars, anything like that, they would have saved a gigaton of money, and they would never have to do the overhead costs of a major conglomerate. But with all that being said, there are so many things I could go into talking about, trying to figure out how much it actually costs for the K&D to actually get this possible. But in the grand scheme, if we're going from the scale of the schoolings, it would equal about 2.2 million from a middle school from a realistic standpoint. And that's not even including the galactic kids next door. And I don't even want to try and attempt to understand how much money and funding they actually got to be able to create something so intricate in the first place. Not even the moon base makes any sense to me at all. With all that, that's it today. That's all I have to say today about the fictional economics episode today about the K&D and their boogers. Yes, I did sit down today to make a long fictional economics video about the boogers of children, and I'm not feeling bad about it. It's not bad. Do let me know, guys, how you feel like how I should improve this fictional economics series. Should I make them more consistent? Because at first I wanted to make them like about a monthly thing because I wanted to be as, you know, funny and intricate as I can, but I think I might overthink it a little bit. So let me know what ideas you guys have for this series, any other franchises you want me to touch, anything like that. I'm open to all the ideas. And if you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. I love all of the love I've been getting from my channel in recent time, so I'm grateful for all of you new people to be here. Don't forget to check out all of my other content, and also don't forget to check out my gaming channel. I'm a little bit more consistent there because it's a little bit easier for me to upload gaming videos, but I want to do a lot more videos here as well. I'm going to be talking about some comics, I'm going to be talking about a lot of different things, and I plan to do more fictional economics as well, so leave a comment below of any ideas you have for this series. Other than that, it's your boy Kadukun. I'll see you guys next time, and peace.